The year was 1944. Europe was burning. The Allied forces had landed in France, and the front lines stretched endlessly across broken villages and muddy fields. Amid the chaos, a small field hospital sat behind enemy lines, hidden in the forest near the ruins of Saint-Laurent. Inside that tent of canvas and mud, a young nurse named Evelyn Carter worked day and night, stitching the broken pieces of soldiers who barely clung to life. Evelyn was only 24, but her hands moved with the calm of someone twice her age. She had joined the British Army's medical corps to save lives, not to witness the slow dying of so many men. But every night, when the bombs stopped falling and the silence crept in, she found herself listening to the sound of the radio, the only connection between her tiny world and the outside one. The hospital was isolated. No roads, no reinforcements. Just a handful of nurses, a few doctors, and the wounded they refused to abandon. Their only lifeline was a battered radio transmitter, a small box covered in dents and bloodstains. The radio was manned by Sergeant Lewis, a quiet man who had once been a radio operator in London. Every night he tried to contact command for evacuation, but the signals never reached through the storm of interference and static. On the night of December 19th, the sky cracked with thunder. German artillery had begun firing again. The forest glowed orange from explosions. Evelyn helped move the wounded deeper into the woods while Lewis tried once more to send an SOS. The radio hissed and screamed. Then suddenly, through the static, a faint voice replied. An Allied code signal that hadn't been used for over a year. Lewis froze. The voice said only one thing. Hold your position. Reinforcements inbound. But no reinforcements came. Hours passed, then days. The radio fell silent again. By the third night, food and morphine were running out. The doctors debated leaving the wounded behind. Evelyn refused. She stayed with them, believing that someone would come, that the voice she heard meant hope. She cleaned the wounds, boiled what little water they had left, and whispered to dying men that they would go home soon. On the fourth day, the bombardment stopped. The forest was eerily quiet. Lewis tried the radio again. Nothing. So Evelyn took over. She had never used a transmitter before, but she knew the codes by heart. Her father had been a radio engineer before the war. She adjusted the frequency, pressed the key, and sent one message. This is Field Hospital 9. We are surrounded. We need help. There was only static. Then, just before she turned the dial again, she heard something faint, a whisper, a woman's voice. It repeated her message back perfectly, like an echo. This is Field Hospital 9. We are surrounded. We need help. Evelyn's heart froze. She looked around. No one else had heard it. That night she couldn't sleep. The wind howled outside, and rain seeped through the canvas roof. Around midnight she turned the radio back on. The same voice came again, clearer this time. Evelyn Carter. Hold your post. Help is coming. Her name. It knew her name. In the morning, Lewis and the others were gone. Only their blood trails remained. The Germans had closed in, taking prisoners. Evelyn hid among the wounded, pretending to be one of them. When night came, she crawled back to the radio and sent one last transmission. If anyone hears this, please, we are still here. The voice replied instantly. Copy that, Evelyn. Do not be afraid. You've done your duty. Then there was silence. When Allied forces finally retook the area weeks later, they found the field hospital in ruins. Dozens of bodies lay scattered, some still wrapped in bandages. But there was one body missing, Evelyn's. The radio, though covered in dust and ash, was still working. And when a soldier turned the dial, he swore he heard a woman's voice whisper through the static. "We are still here." After the war, reports spread among radio operators about a mysterious frequency that sometimes came alive during storms. It carried faint Morse code signals, always the same words. Evelyn had sent, "This is Field Hospital 9. Many dismissed it as interference. But those who heard it said the signal had something human about it, something that didn't feel like mere electricity. In 1957, a young radio technician stationed in West Germany picked up the signal again. He recorded it and played it back for his commander. The commander, a veteran of Normandy, turned pale. He recognized the voice. It was Evelyn Carter, a nurse he had seen once in France before his unit moved on. Her voice hadn't aged a day. No one could explain how a transmission from 1944 could appear in 1957, and later again in 1965, and again in 1972. Each time, the same message repeated, "This is Field Hospital 9. We are surrounded. We need help." By the 1980s, the legend of the last signal became a ghost story among soldiers and pilots. Some said that during certain nights, near the ruins of Saint-Laurent, if you tuned your radio between the frequencies, you could still hear her. Others claimed that during NATO exercises, pilots reported receiving brief, unexplained transmissions signed E. Carter, RN. In 1991, a group of researchers visited the site where the field hospital once stood. They found rusted tools, broken medical kits, and part of a radio transmitter fused to the earth by lightning. When they tested it, the static came alive, and a faint, distant woman's voice whispered again, "We are still here." Was it a memory trapped in the machine? A freak atmospheric echo? Or something that refused to fade? A promise that outlived the war itself? No one truly knows. But even today, deep in the French forests where fog rolls thick over the graves of the fallen, sometimes a radio crackles to life on its own. And through that timeless static, if you listen closely, you might just hear the voice of a nurse, calm, brave, eternal, still calling out from the darkness, refusing to be forgotten.